What's up there, YouTube? Welcome to another fine episode of GTA Autos. I am your host, What a Doozy, 1929 here. And we're at our headquarters over at the airport, and it is now sunny outside. When I came over here, it was raining, so put the car in here. Now, the car that we'll be talking about is the car you at least expect to be talked about today. And I know we've always been talking about a lot of cars, but this car is, to me, a potential contender of being something to be customizable at Benny's Garage. Introducing the Dundreary Regina. Now, the Regina has been with us since Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The Regina, to me, no one likes it. I don't like it, even if it is a classic. It's a car that I just want to avoid. Now, I like all kinds of cars, no matter what it is. If it's a Chevette, I don't care. I like it. If it's a Vega, I don't care. If it's a Nash, freaking Metropolitan, if you're a car guy, then you probably know what those are. If it's a Pinto, I don't care. I like it. It's cool. It looks interesting to see something that's older than me. That's awesome. So, the Regina is, of course, a station wagon based off the 1973 Plymouth Fury Suburban, and that is basically a station wagon. There's a lot of ways back in the day. There is a lot of ways of classifying a station wagon. You had the simple word station wagon, or estate, or wagon, or suburban. And these were basically the names that you would classify a station wagon of this kind of class. Back in the day, this station wagon was the ultimate family getter-upper. It was very luxurious, and for the price, you can haul your family from New York to Chicago and back within the week. These cars really put up a lot and suffered a number or two of beatings and family get-togethers and vacations and soccer meets and basketball training and football season. These station wagons were the answer to large families. What I'm trying to say. Now, everybody knows the iconic Plymouth Fury. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then watch the movie Christine, because that is a 1957 Plymouth Fury. The Plymouth Fury, to me, is a cool car. I would say it was Plymouth's top-of-the-line model. The Fury basically was its performance. It was its performance car of its day, but of course that ultimately shat. But I would say it's the lower-end performance car, because you had the Plymouth Barracuda, you had the Plymouth Superbird. They were performance cars, and I would say the Fury was I would say it was in the lower end class. But the Fury basically came in so many different model types. It came in a hardtop convertible, sedan, another hardtop four-door, and of course, what we have in front of us is the four-door station wagon on the C-body platform. Now, this car is surprisingly based off the Dodge Phoenix, which was in production in Australia. I don't have a ultimate look of what it's supposed to look like, but I'm guessing it probably looked like it. But the engine types, the powertrain, this thing had a lot of engine choices. Of course, we had the biggest one being the 7-liter 426 cubic inch. And other smaller you also had other smaller engines, from a 380 cubic inch 6.3 liter V8. You had a 318 cubic inch 5.2 liter V8. You had a 225 cubic inch 3.7 liter slant 6. You also had a 440 cubic inch 7.2 liter V8, and you just basically had all these engine choices. I don't want to say them all because it's a mouthful, but it's a lot. You had almost a 6.5 liter V8, 400 cubic inches, and then you had a 1.9 liter V8. So there was a lot of engine choices for this thing. I'm guessing the 7 liter probably came in the more performance package, and it probably came up in this body style because this thing weighs a ton and you need a lot of power to move this big land yacht from point A to point B. So chances are it probably had the bigger engine. Now, it's a little bit darker in here, so I'm going to bring the car in the light so we can all see it better. We all know what the Regina looks like. But the Plymouth Fury, it's ultimately one of Plymouth's landmarks. It was its stepping stone. It was its footprint. It was its base, everything. Plymouth Fury. You cannot go anywhere without... You can't go anywhere without bringing up the Plymouth Fury. It's been in many famous TV shows. Of course, like I said, it's been in many famous movies, like Christine, but that was a 50s Plymouth. Give me 1 minute. Never mind. But, the Regina, of course, been with us since Vice City, and it was interesting. Since being based off the 80s, it was based off, I would say, a Chevrolet Caprice wagon, and, it wasn't a very desirable car throughout. Matter of fact, it's still not a desirable car. Throughout his whole years in being in Grand Theft Auto, it's not a very desirable car. I would say the only time the Regina had to be very desirable and really cool was when it was introduced in, when it was first introduced in the HD universe and in The Lost and the Damned. The Regina from The Lost and the Damned was a very, very cool station wagon. It was very rare, very hard to find, and you can only find it in one mission. And I think that was a toll booth something. But you can only find it in that mission, and it was hard to get. It's very rare, and to me, it had a very cool body style. This is not the Regina from The Lost and the Damned. They shortened I think they shortened it down and they narrowed it a bit. The Regina from The Lost and the Damned was wider, it was lower, it looked mean, it was cool. It had dual quad headlights that were round and not square like this one, and the grille, the whole front fascia was just really cool looking. And when it was introduced on here, I just lost faith in it. It was my favorite car. To me, I think the Regina has potential of being a really awesome car. They don't have to stick with this body style. Rockstar don't have to stick with this. They could easily bring back the Regina from Lost and the Damned and dubbed it as probably the Regina Classic, because they did the same thing with the Virgo. You had the Albany Virgo, which is basically a muscle car that was from the late 60s and the 70s. Matter of fact, I can show you what it looks like, because this is just a pretty good example of what Rockstar can do with the Regina. So we get all the way down here. This is the Albany Virgo. Now, if you're a GTA enthusiast and a car nut, then you should know that the Virgo ultimately is produced by Dundreary. It was produced by Dundreary in Grand Theft Auto 4, and this is made by Albany. So it's kind of based off the 1969 Cadillac Eldorado. I didn't like this one, but Rockstar did bring the classic Virgo back, and it was brought back in the Lowrider update right here, the Dundreary Virgo Classic. This one I ultimately fell in love with because, of course, it just reminds me the late 70s and the 80s, early 80s. I like this car. It's big, it's cool, and I like it. I like old luxury cars. This is an example of what Rockstar should do with the Regina. They need to bring back the old Regina from Grand Theft Auto Lost and the Damned. That could be a potential contender of being something really awesome at Benny's Garage. So hopefully I can get a shout out from somebody to at least bug Rockstar into bringing back the classic Regina from the Lost and the Damned. So there's nothing special about this car. It's pretty boring. No special customizations, nothing. It's just a boring car. It has a big V8, but this is what you have to expect when you have this big car. And I never noticed that. The side of it says Dundreary. That is really cool. I never saw that. So fake wood paneling. This is probably the only car that has wood paneling on it. Nothing very special. Now, you're probably thinking this thing is probably the same size as a regular sedan. Well, this back seat. See, back in the day, when you're picking out a car, when you're getting a new car, you have a paper, you have a list of options that you want to put in the car. So it was optional to have multiple seats in this back trunk area. You can have seats, but they're facing backwards, kind of like a rumble seat from the the 30s, but technically not a rumble seat. But the seats will be under the floors. You just pull them up, and it'll be extra seats if you have more kids or you have a family road trip and you wanted to add more people to it. That's basically what this thing was. That's basically what this back seat was meant for. You climb back here, go in the trunk, sit down, enjoy yourself, have a ball. But that's basically what the station wagon was back then. Now, today's station wagons hard to come by. Not a lot of car companies make station wagons no more because we're in an age where everybody wants crossovers. Families are getting bigger. They don't want to spend this much money. And station wagons are a thing of the past now. Matter of fact, it was the minivan that killed the station wagon in the 1980s. The minivans back in the 80s, they started to introduce, I think it was either Chrysler or Toyota that started it. But we all know the first minivan technically was the Volkswagen Bus. But the first whole batch of minivans was not until the 80s. And they were better than station wagons. They had more room. It was easy to get in and out of them. There was much space in it. It could be made cheaper. The engines could have smaller engines in it. It was basically ultimately the better car to choose versus a station wagon. Now, don't get me wrong. Station wagons, they have their ups and downs, and minivans, they have their ups and downs too. Versus station wagon. To be honest with you, I would have picked a station wagon versus a minivan because I hate minivans. And if you're a guy, you should all know that minivans are not a turn on for any guy, for any girl or guy. No. No guy likes minivans. No man on earth likes minivans. We like cars, and we can handle station wagons. We love station wagons. I love station wagons. They're cool, better looking than minivans. But if you're just an upcoming family, if I was you, you probably would have chose this minivan. It's an easy choice. But even today's standards, the minivan is starting to die off too because these crossovers are becoming a more common sight on the streets. Now, I bet you're wondering, the crossovers, yeah, they're like SUV. No. Crossovers is basically a fancy way of saying station wagon. So basically, the station wagon is still moving on. The crossovers are not bigger, they're not SUVs technically, because they're real small. And SUVs are supposed to be roomy. And if you're talking about Explorer or Escalade or Suburban or Top, yeah, those are SUVs. If you're talking about, let's say a Ford Escape or maybe a Nissan Rogue, those are crossovers. They're not SUVs because they're small, they're light, front-wheel drive. They can sometimes have all-wheel drive, and they probably can't tow that much. They have smaller engine choices. Not a lot of SUVs have 4 cylinders, and if they do, then it's a small SUV, like a CR-V. But these crossovers is just basically a smart way. It's a more fancy way of saying station wagon. So the station wagon is still moving on, but it's just in a different form. Now, station wagons are starting to come back slowly because Mercedes-Benz just released a new E-Class. They just released a new E-Class station wagon. I think BMW is making another station wagon, and I wish Cadillac would bring the CTS-V station wagon back, but that's not going to happen. But station wagons are coming back just very slowly, and it'd be nice to see them come back again in this classic form versus the crossover look. I am not a crossover fan because it's not a very roomy area. They're not really roomy. I know I'm just jabbering on this whole episode, and I'm trying to hope everybody watched this episode because this is really important. I want the Regina to be something better, because if Rockstar can get the freaking minivan to be customizable at Benny's, then damn, the Regina should have its time to shine. Because I'm sorry, the minivan I'd hate. Everybody hates the minivan, and I don't think a lot of people has the custom minivan. But to see a custom Regina, that'd be really nice. Now, there's no chance of me eventually getting a 60 in this thing, because this thing is pretty slow. It's really big, and starters, I can't see the speedometer because my thumb's in the way. So I'm just gonna estimate which one is 60. So let's try to see if we can at least get it to 90. Okay, I can. We're at 40. Still at 40. Okay, we're at 60 now. So that's, I'll say that's around, okay, that's 9.5 seconds. That's very slow. And we're still climbing. We're still at 60. This thing is not that powerful, like I said. Now, not a lot of people have this in the garage. Let's just face the fact. This thing is not in no one's garage. And if it is in somebody's garage, then it was probably by accident or just by emergency standards. But this car is very cheap. You can buy it online, but I wouldn't recommend buying it unless it's worth getting. This car can be sold for $800. It's not very valuable. It's not very cool. But like I said, this thing is a potential contender of being something cool in Benny's garage. Not this one, because I hate this body design. I don't know why Rockstar decided to change the body design of the station wagon. They should have kept the Lost in the Damned variants of the Regina, because I love that lean, mean 60s look. And it was wider. I just like it. It had a ragtop roof and everything. I loved it. That thing was cool. Even though when it was beat up, that thing was cool. It was cool looking. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Put a comment, like, and subscribe. This is What a Doozy 1929 here, signing off with the Regina. Let's hope Rockstar does something cool with this thing, because if they can manage to do something cool, if they can manage to do something cool with a minivan, then the Regina should have its place in the books for being something really cool. I'll see you guys later.